appreciate the warm introduction. But the truth is that I am not truly the best man tonight. Brian never really asked me to be here. And as his one and only brother, I just kind of assumed the role. It's much like the brother rule in Peabody Little League. For those of you who aren't familiar with Peabody Little League's brother rule, I'm going to go into it right now. Basically, the brother rule is established so that parents don't have to drive, their kids of different ages back and forth to 2 sets of practices, 2 sets of games. And so typically what happens is if the older brother makes a team, say in the majors, the big leagues, the younger brother gets to also make that team. And also gets to be a part of the excitement. City champions, that's right. Pittsburgh Pirates. Well, to date, Brian is pretty much the only person I know to realize the brother rule in reverse. I don't claim to be an athlete, but it's true. Now, I'm sure you all hear about Brian's esteemed sports career from one Dennis McGarry, the true best man of tonight's ceremonies. But I had to delve into the history. So it goes. But while I'm playing the role of best man by default, I'll take a moment to thank Brad and Karen, my parents, Dave and Kathy, and of course Brian and Bridget, for gathering us all here tonight. Certainly a privilege to get drunk with such an eclectic assembly. Seriously though, it reminds me of Woodstock. Good times. I only have like 10 more pages to get through. Now, in all seriousness, Brian and Bridget both encouraged me to speak on their behalf tonight. They even afforded me a handsome stipend of bourbon and peppered beef jerky. And for 2 out of the 3 things, being here tonight, the peppered beef jerky and bourbon, I'm quite thankful for. You can guess which 2 out of the 3 it is. You see, when you've been married as long as I have, people often ask you to impart your ephemeral wisdom on true love and betrothal in moments like these. And I'm happy to oblige. I really am. But enough about me and more about these 2 lovebirds. After all, that's why we're here tonight. So I guess I'll start with my brother Brian. As most of you may know, Brian is incredibly social. The guy's given more best man speeches and been to more proms than anybody I've ever known. And I think part of the reason making friends comes so naturally to Brian is that, for one, he takes genuine interest in other people's passions. I've experienced that firsthand. Not everybody likes fish, but Brian pretended to like it for me. Strange Folk as well, so. Those are 2 bands, by the way. And on top of that, he's incredibly loyal. We talked about that a little bit earlier tonight. One particular instance of his loyalty to me as a brother stems back to our days of playing baseball behind the Welsh school. You guys probably think I'm a baseball fanatic. I don't really care about baseball too much, but in our childhood, we did care about these things. And so it was just your average pickup game, and as usual, it was Gringos versus Dominicans. It was kind of like The Sandlot meets West Side Story. Just to give you kind of a picture of what happened. So, for those of you that were, privileged enough to hear Brian's best man speech for me, he talked a little bit about my temper as a child. I didn't like losing. I didn't like doing anything but winning. And unfortunately, I lost a lot, so I was crying a lot. But in any case, at some point during this pickup game, I actually, I didn't like a particular call that was made, and so I threw my glove at one of the 4 to 5 people on the other team named Hector. And I just happened to pick the biggest one. And since there was such a size difference between me and said Hector, through some semblance of adolescent logic and reason, it was decided that Brian would take my place in the fight that was to ensue. And the person he was squaring up against was actually a kid named Oscar, who would have fun. But it happened to be one of his best friends at the time, so. That was really the first time, excuse me, sorry. That was the first time I ever remembered looking up to my brother Brian, and honestly I haven't stopped since. Looking up at his big black eye, as my mother had him propped up on the bathroom vanity, I remember thinking, wow, what a guy. He really has my back. And he still does to this day. So cheers, Brian. Thank you. And although he lost the fight miserably, and I still feel guilty for it, I almost wish I could see a rematch today. Now that Brian is a CrossFit, paleo dieting superstar. Speaking of superstars, let's hear it for the Bodacious Bride, the headliner of this magical evening. Bridget, I knew you were going to look stunning tonight. That's why I was able to type it on this piece of paper several days in advance. But seriously, Bridge, can I call you Bridge? You're glowing tonight. Even without Brian's electric blue tie, my light-up worm sluggo thing, and the psychedelic light show that you guys have planned tonight. That was a compliment, you guys can cheer. No, seriously though, I'll share a quick story about Bridget and then I'll sit down before my grandmother stabs me with her steak knife. Love you, Granny. As many of you know, I'm pretty cultured. I used to live in Europe. Shortly after Brian and Bridget started dating, they came to visit me in Madrid and we headed down to Malaga for the weekend. Pretty much anything that could go wrong during that trip did. I almost forgot my laptop in the security line at the airport. Big surprise. Our room in the luxurious Hotel California smelled increasingly of sewage. We planned a day trip to Granada and missed our bus. Someone mistook me for Harry Potter. And on our first night there, we got lost heading back to our hotel. But it was the first night in Malaga that really sticks out in my mind. Too proud to ask for directions, Brian and I used our only landmark, the castle, as our point of reference. Now the castle was in the middle of the city. And somehow, no matter how far we marched on, it stayed in the middle. We probably did 2 or 3 laps around the castle that night before finding our way home. I have a feeling Bridget realized our mistake early on, but she remained calm. Well, relatively. By the 3rd lap, she had taken off her heels, was walking barefoot, and I'm pretty sure she was contemplating staking us both. But all in all, she was willing to deal with our foolishness and partake in the adventure. And as men, that's all we can really ask for. So I'll drink to that, and I hope all of you will too. To love, foolishness, and a lifetime full of adventures for these extraordinary people.